I know we shouldn't compare ourselves, but have you ever noticed that someone you maybe comfortably keep up with in training always beats you when it comes to race day? Now, open water swimming is not purely about your stroke and your fitness. There are a lot of other unique skills required. So we're not just going to be talking about drafting and sighting. We're going to be covering absolutely everything required to nail your next open water swim. Why not start with the start? If you want to get ahead, find clear water, get the best line, it's expected that you have to go 100% at the start. So after 200 meters, you're with the group, great, but then what? You're probably going to be exhausted and struggling to hang on. Whereas if you actually went at 90% of your effort, saving 10%, you can find yourself in a far better situation that the swimmers around you start to tire, and instead of watching them disappear off into the distance, you could potentially get onto the feet of one or two of the faster swimmers and actually leave that pack in your wake if you've got that extra 10% reserve. So going into the start with a clear strategy and being strong and making sure you stick to it will actually give you that benefit. And think once you get to 200 meters, you've still got a bit extra. How good that's going to feel. Well, before we move on to the next sections of the swim, just a quick reminder or an ask: if you are enjoying our content here at GTN and want to show your support, you can do that by clicking on the globe and subscribing. Now you're into the flow of the race, it's time to settle in and make the most of the other swimmers around you. Yes, I am talking about drafting. Now, if you are racing people that you know what their pace is, you'll know whether it's a similar pace to yours and you can potentially sit on their feet and swim at the same pace as you would on your own, but for far less effort. Or if you want to push yourself and try and find some feet that are a bit quicker, that you have to work a bit harder to get on initially, but then in theory, you could end up swimming much quicker for basically the same effort you would swim on your own. So it is a bit of a decision, and it's quite hard to judge this pace when you're in the water and there's all sorts going on, but try to check in on your effort levels. And once you've found those feet, you've got to commit to staying there, because it will make a big difference for the overall swim. Well, you've got yourself in a great pack, you're speeding along with your head down at no extra effort. It all sounds brilliant, but only if you're going in the right direction. Yeah, you have to make that call of whether you trust the feet in front of you, and I would suggest that you should always actually still do some sighting, because after all, you are responsible for where you go in the swim. And this is where you need to practice sighting. And I don't just mean going through the routine of lifting your head up in the pool or looking at the buoys in your local swim centre, because realistically, you know where those buoys are, you know where to look. And it's very different when sighting in a completely new circumstance. Add in adrenaline, others around you, and it does become much harder. So try to replicate that, or try to sight things in training that you maybe couldn't see so easily when you have to just look a little bit harder, a bit higher. Remember, the light might be different, the buoys might be smaller, the gaps will be different. So there's a lot of variables which are hard to train for, but when you are practicing sighting, make sure you're actually doing it. You're not just going through the simple motions, and the more comfortable you are lifting your head up whilst keeping that same rhythm in the stroke, the more efficient you will be when it comes to race day. Well, sighting isn't actually just for in front, which might sound mad, but bear with me here. You actually want to make the most of being able to look to your side, and even in some situations slightly behind you. Imagine if you're swimming parallel to the coast, for example, and you've got waves rolling in from your side. Well, you need to actually be able to notice them, see when they're coming, so you can time your breathing accordingly, making sure you don't get a mouthful of water. And talking of waves, if it's a beach exit, then you actually want to keep an eye on what's happening kind of behind you. So you're looking almost under your arm to see when the next set of waves are coming, where you can try to body surf them and make the most of that free ride. Well, along these lines, you still need to use your brain a little, as it's not as simple as seeing where the next buoy is and what direction you're turning. You actually need to think about your positioning if you are in a group. So you've got some options here. You could try to stay on the inside line, but you need to be aware that you might get pushed about a little bit. You might even have the odd elbow accidentally in your face as it all groups together around that buoy. You could alternatively put on a bit of a spurt as you get close to the buoy, so you try to be in front and you get some clean water around it. Alternatively, you might feel that where you are positioned in the group, it's easier to just swim a little bit further, go wide, but you don't waste energy by being in the mix with the others. Or there's another theory which I'm not going to put my name to, but my co-presenter Mark has suggested the rollover. Now, apparently, this is something when you get close to the buoy and you roll over the swimmer next to you, but we're not recommending it here, as it probably won't make you any friends and you might get the payback later on. And finally, the last 100 meters are in sight. And this is where you want to pick up your leg kick a little bit, get your legs working and ready for that transition. Don't go over the top because you don't want to be coming out of the water exhausted and crawling into transition, but use this time to start thinking about the process that's ahead of you. Well, there's plenty for you to be working on, and hopefully this will help you nail your next open water swim. But do remember, your competitors might have also watched this video, so you'll have to up your game. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Give us a like if so.